Hi there, my name is Jennifer Boskamp. I am also known as the Intentional Mom and the creator and money coach of the money program Thriving on a Dime. So, thriving. I know a lot about thriving, and I know a lot about uncertainties, and I know a lot about fear, I guess. And I think that is a lot of where we are right now. So if you are someone who is living in fear and living in uncertainty and living in a state of, I guess, not having peace, then I have got some important things for you to think about today. So what I have is kind of a summary of where we are, and then I have four things that you can do right now in the midst of living in fear, because like it or not, we can't do a whole lot about where we are in the world today and what is going on in the world today, but we can choose how we think about it. We can think about how we respond to it, and I think we can think about how we're going to get through to the other side, because in reality, we all want to do that, right? We're all going to come through to the other side, okay? So here is kind of the thing that we don't know. There's basically, as I see it, there are two things that we don't know. The first is we don't know how long this place of uncertainty and really, honestly, a place we've never been before. We don't know how long this is going to last, right? We don't know when things are going to go back to normal. And I say normal, not really knowing, is it going to go back to the old normal or is it going to be a state of new normal? Like, we just don't know, right? We are kind of living in a place where we have not been before, at least not in this generation, and certainly not in this way, okay? So that's one thing that we don't know, right? We don't know how long this thing is going to last, right? With this whole virus and it affecting our economy, it affecting many people's jobs, ways of life, just all kinds of things. We don't know how long this is going to last, right? So that's the one thing we don't know. Then we don't know exactly either. We don't know what the details are going to look like on the other side, right? So we don't know when we're going to get to the other side, and we don't know what that's going to look like, and we don't know what life is going to be like on the other side. And honestly, a lot of what it's going to look like on the other side depends on how long we end up here in this weird place. All right, so those are things that I think we can agree we have little to no control over, little to no knowledge of. We can speculate, we can hope, we can make predictions, but really that's all that there is. We really don't have anything other than that. But there are a lot of things that we can, that we do know. There are certainties, as I'm saying. So this is what we need to do whenever you're living in a time of fear or panic or crisis or uncertainty. You have to cling to the certainties and or what you do know. And so that's what we're going to talk about here. So I have four things that we do know, okay? And these aren't really in any particular order, okay? So number one is that this will end, right? This period that we are in, this uncertainty, this virus, this effect on the economy, this time of social distancing, this time of just our total way of life being disrupted, this will end. I think we can agree about that. This is not going to continue this way forever, right? We don't have the other answers like we already talked about, but we do know that this will end. That is a certainty. This will end. It will not always be this way, okay? So that's number one. So when it comes to finding peace in times of fear or times of uncertainty or times like this, right, we have to cling to what we do know. And certainty number one that we do know is that this will end, okay? So that's number one. Number two certainty that you have to cling to is that you intend on still being standing at the end of this, right? This is not going to take you down. You are not going to let this be the end of you, right? You are going to do everything you can, and you probably already are. You are going to do everything you can and continue to do everything you can to make sure that you are still standing at the end of all of this. Because I don't need that either, right? I don't intend on this completely defining the rest of my life. And I'm sure that you don't intend on this defining the rest of your life either. So when it comes to finding peace, you have to know that I don't know how it's all going to shake out, right? We already talked about, I don't know when it's going to end. I don't know what it's going to look like on the other side, but I know that I'm still going to be standing, and I am going to fight through this thing, right? Until I don't need to fight about it anymore. And until I'm done, fighting my way through this, until it's actually done, I'm going to keep fighting, and I know that I'm going to stand up on the other. I know that I'm still going to be standing on the other end. That's certainty number 2. I don't know of anybody who is saying, I'm just going to, there's just not a whole lot I can do. I'm just going to let the chips fall where they may, and, we'll see what happens at the end. Like, everybody I know, right, is trying to figure out how to be more resourceful. Everybody is trying to figure out, like, if you're someone who has parents or kids home from school now, right? If you're a mom or a dad who is now dealing with kids home from school, you're trying to figure out how to make it all work, right? We are all trying to figure out how to make it all work. And because that's what we are all doing every day, we know we're going to be standing at the end of it, right? So that's certainty number 2, is that I am still, your certainty that you can cling to during this time that's going to help you bring peace is to say, I am still going to be standing at the end of this. I don't know what that means, but I don't know what that's going to look like exactly, but I know I'm still going to be standing. This thing is not going to take me down, right? And we're talking about, you could be talking about the virus, but you could also be talking about, just withstanding this time, right? This is taking a huge toll on a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And you're just saying, you know what? I'm going to cling to the fact that I know I'm still going to be standing at the end. So that's certainty number 2. Certainty number 3 is that you've already done hard things, right? This is not the first time. I can guarantee for every single person that this is not the first time you've had controversy in your life. This is not the first time you've had a struggle. This is not the first time you've gone to bed at night thinking, well, I don't know what this is going to look like tomorrow or next week or next month. Like, I don't know. Like, this is scary, and this is making me nervous, and this is making me afraid and anxious and panicked and all of this stuff, right? It's not the first time that you've done that. And the thing is that sometimes it's hard to remember that when you're in the midst of it, right? When you're in the midst of a hard time, it's hard to remember that. It's difficult to remember that I already have been through this. And so but when you recall that, it gives you strength, right? When you recall that I'm resilient, right? I'm strong. I've already proven that I can withstand hard things, and I can make it through hard things. When you recall that, especially now, if you're looking for peace in the midst of this, if you're looking for peace in the midst of fear or anxiousness or panic or whatever it is that you're feeling right now, if you're feeling anxious in the midst of all of that, you can say, you know what, I'm resilient and I'm strong and I've already done hard things. And so because I'm choosing to recognize that, right, these things that I'm telling you right now, these 4 things, they are a choice, right? You have to recall these things. You have to accept these things as truth. You have to, when you're starting to be overcome by feelings of panic or fear or anxiousness, you have to draw on these things, right? I mean, it's not like a magic wand, but these 4 things, and I hope you're writing these down, these 4 things are things that you can use when you are feeling unpeaceful, right? When you are feeling as though you are not at peace, remembering these things. But number 3 is remembering that you've already done hard things. You've already been resilient. You are resilient, and you have probably already proven to yourself that you're stronger than you probably think you are. Okay, so that's number 3. And then the fourth certainty that we have in the midst of this, and I'm not saying these are necessarily the only certainties, but I think these are 4 really important certainties for right now. Okay, so the 4th certainty is that you have the power to make number 2 and number 3 happen, right? So number 2, if you remember, number 2 and number 3 was remembering that your goal is to still be standing, and that you're going to cling to and remember the fact that you are resilient and you are strong and you have done hard things. You've figured it out before, right? You might be looking at this. You might be looking at the fact that your income has been cut, and you might be saying, I don't know how to do this, right? I don't know what we're supposed to do, right? You might be looking at all kinds of different stuff, right? And saying, I don't know how to do this, right? But you can make the choice to say, okay, I've been here before though. None of us are born knowing everything, right? A lot of what we learn and a lot of what we draw on really without even thinking about it from challenge to challenge or even day to day, part of how we do that is because we draw on former knowledge, right? We draw on our experience. Sometimes we look to others for experience, right? And you're even looking to others for experience. You're even looking to others when you are reading a book or, learning a new class or taking a course or seeking out advice or seeking wisdom from someone else. But that's all part of number 2. That's all part of the fact that you have already figured things out before. So this is no different, right? We do not need to let this take us down. And part of the reason why we don't need to let this take us down, a big part of the reason why we don't need to let us take this down is because we can choose. Number 4 is the certainty that you have is that you can draw on the strength of number 2, which is you can draw on the strength of knowing that you've done hard things before, you've figured things out before, you've withstood challenges, you have come out swinging and still standing on the other side, and you've done that before, so you can do that again, right? But you are the only one who can do that. That's a certainty. I can't. I can come on here and I am doing all kinds of teaching the last couple of weeks. I am doing all kinds of blog posts. I am doing all kinds of everything because a lot of withstanding things like this is something that I actually have a lot of knowledge in. I already know what it's like to manage finances during times of trial. I already know what it's like to try to make ends meet on next to nothing. I already know a lot about that. And so I've been using this time to try to help people, right? Just like you with how to do this, right? I already know how to manage life with all of my kids at home and my whole family at home, because that too is my reality, right? Mom of 9, homeschooling kids, right? I'm used to all of this stuff. And so I've been doing a lot of teaching, right? And I can come on here and I can give you, and last week and the week before, and I can write blog posts and I can do all the things, and I can do everything within my power to remind you and to encourage you and to give you skills to use. But at the end of the day, you're really the only one who can choose to internalize those. You are really the only one who can take ownership of those things. And so that's why number 4 says that you are the only one who can make number 2 and number 3 happen, right? And number 2 says, number 2 says, number 2 says, I'm still going to be standing at the end of this. You're the only one who can do that, right? You have to make that decision, and you have to become committed to figuring out how to still be standing at the end of this, right? And then you are also the only one who can tell yourself what we talked about in number 3, which is, I've already done hard stuff, right? I already know what I'm doing. You might not have the exact answers, but I know that I can come out because I've done that before, right? You're the only one who can internalize those things. You're the only one who can take ownership of those things. You are the only one who can draw on that and truly make it your own. I can tell you, but certainty number 4 is that you have to take ownership of those, and you have to internalize those, and you have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe in those truths. And this is how we're going to overcome those couple of things that we're not certain about. And when you cling to these 4 things, and maybe some others during this time, right? When you cling to those 4 things and take ownership of them and remind yourself of these things all throughout the day, especially when panic or a feeling of, an unsettled feeling or fear or anxiety or whatever it might be comes over you, you can choose to have these 4 things be things that you contemplate, and things that you roll over, and things that you remind yourself, and maybe even things that you say to yourself out loud, right? Maybe that's what it's going to mean for you to actually internalize these. Maybe you're going to have to just remind yourself, you know what? I've done that before. When my thoughts start to get the best of me, or when my thoughts start to go to a place where I know it's not beneficial for me, right? What do? You have to be able to take ownership of that and say, you know what? I'm not going to think about those things. I'm going to remember that I've done hard things before, and I'm going to remember that I am going to still be standing at the end of this. I might not know when that is, and I might not know what that's going to look like. Those are the 2 uncertainties, right? But I know that in some way, shape, or form, I'm still going to be standing at the end of this, and I'm going to just keep going, right? So you have to do that, though. Number 4 says that you have to take ownership of those, and you have to take control of your thoughts. And you have to use those to help guide you during these times, right? And that's how you're going to find peace, okay? So if you're struggling to find peace during this time, if you are scared or worried or anxious or panicked or fearful or whatever, frustrated, angry, whatever it is, right? You can't control when this is going to end. None of us can. And you can't control what it's going to look like on the other side. But you can control knowing that that you're still going to be standing at the end. And you can control that you're going to get there and you're going to figure it out because you figured it out before. And you are going to cling to the fact that at some point it will end, because it will, because life isn't going to stay this way, right? It's going to at some point get better. And so you just know those three things. And number 4 says, I'm going to know those three things. I'm going to know it will end. I'm going to know I'm still going to be standing. And I'm going to choose to know that I've done these types of things before. And while I haven't done this exact thing before, I know that I can withstand hard times, and I know that I'm strong, and I know that I'm resilient, and that is going to be what carries me through. So that is those three things are huge things that you can do to find peace right now in the midst of fear. We'd all love for this to be over, right? We would all love for this to never have happened, but we can't change any of that. But what we can change and what we can do is change our reaction to it, and change the way that we see the reality that we are living in. And this is the reality that we are all living in, right? Not even just in the US, right? This is a worldwide thing. So that's what we can do. So we cannot be a victim to what's going on, right? Who likes to be in victim mentality? Like nobody, right? So these things are things that you need to do. And then you say, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. And every day, maybe you have to tell that to yourself. Maybe you have to cling to these three things several times throughout the day. And that's okay. They're there for you, okay? So that's what I've got for you today. I've got the fact that we don't know when it's going to end, and we don't know what it's going to look like, but we can change how we react. We can change our commitment, and we can control our commitment to get through it. And we can draw on strength from places we've been before and hard things that we've done before to help us get through. So that's what I've got for you today. Happy Monday, you guys. Have an awesome day.